Hello, welcome back. Let's try again. I have it a bit hot. 31 degrees. But it be like this 3 weeks or more like 1 month. It's summer. It's still kind of summer. We have a heat wave not many days ago. And this heat wave is a kind of back. And before that was hot too, so been hot in my living room many months, weeks. But we are in September month in a few days next week. It's September, then the sun is not getting up so much. Thursday next week we are Wednesday. So I got my YouTube money today, and Friday I had to do my weight. I got 200 gram below 100 kilos. First time in 15 years. So I hope I can stay down there always rest of my life, but I don't like to be like 100 kilos, 90 kilos rest of my life. I need to go below 90 kilos. I have to try to get to like 78 kilos or 88 kilos. Yes. But I maybe get 2 old computers later, but he have not contacted me yet, but probably he is at work. It's not 3 p.m. yet, they are still working. So there was one more PDF left with sockets, CPU sockets, so that's 7 pages. And the text is a little bit small, so that would be a kind of a long video, 2 parts I think. But I think we can do it below 40 minutes. Yes, I need to learn about the different kind of computer sockets, the CPU socket. I need to know something about that when I'm collecting this Intel CPUs. And I'm getting this, I need to know which CPU fits to which CPU sockets. But of course I cannot remember all this, and I don't have a printer. I need to get a printer so I can print this Wikipedia. We can print this Wikipedia. I need to make a book. No, I need to make a folder. No, I need to print it out, and then I have to have a book with all kind of papers like slots. I can just find it. So, and when I'm doing this personally computer history museum Denmark, I can use this Wikipedia documents as free information. I can just print it out. Of course I keep the Wikipedia, and I like to donate money to Wikipedia, of course. I'd like to donate some money later. Yes, and next is Intel Graphic Technology, the hyper-threading CPU cache. Then no, that's a Pentium box. Then I'm to the Pentium. That's where I like to go to. That's the list of all this list of Intel CPUs. Yes, let's try read it.
CPU socket LGA 775 A land grid array socket M2 plus a pin grid array socket in computer hardware. A CPU socket or CPU slot contains one or more mechanical components providing mechanical and electrical connections between a microprocessor and a printed circuit board, PCB. PHYs allows for placing and replacing the central processing unit, CPU, without soldering. Common sockets have retention clips that apply a constant force, which must be overcome when a device is inserted. For chips with many pins, zero insertion force, ZIF, sockets are preferred. Common sockets include pin grid array, PGA, or land grid array, LGA. These designs apply a compression force once either a handle, PGA type, or a surface plate, LGA type, is put into place. This provides superior mechanical retention while avoiding the risk of bending pins when inserting the chip into the socket. Certain devices use ball grid array, BGA, sockets, although these require soldering and are generally not considered user replaceable. CPU sockets are used on the motherboard in desktop and server computers. Because they allow easy swapping of components, they are also used for prototyping new circuits. Laptops typically use surface mount CPUs, which take up less space on the motherboard than a socketed part. As the pin density increases in modern sockets, increasing demands are placed on the printed circuit board fabrication technique, which permits the large number of signals to be successfully routed to nearby components. Likewise, within the chip carrier, the wire bonding technology also becomes more demanding with increasing pin counts and pin densities. Each socket technology will have specific reflow soldering requirements. As CPU and memory frequencies increase, above 30 MHz or thereabouts, electrical signaling increasingly shifts to differential signaling over parallel buses, bringing a new set of signal integrity challenges. The evolution of the CPU socket amounts to a co-evolution of all these technologies in tandem. Modern CPU sockets are almost always designed in conjunction with a heatsink mounting system, or in lower power devices. Other thermal considerations. Contents. Function. List of CPU sockets and slots 80x86. Other ISAs. Slockets. See also. References. External links. Function. A CPU socket is made of plastic, and often comes with a lever or latch, and with metal contacts for each of the pins or LANs on the CPU. Many packages are keyed to ensure the proper insertion of the CPU. CPUs with a PGA, pin grid array, package are inserted into the socket and, if included, the latch is closed. CPUs with an LGA, land grid array, package are inserted into the socket. The latch plate is flipped into position at the CPU, and the lever is lowered and locked into place, pressing the CPU's contacts firmly against the socket's LANs and ensuring a good connection, as well as increased mechanical stability. List of CPU sockets and slots. 80x86. Table legend, Intel only, AMD only. Socket. Name, year of introduction. CPU families supported. Computer tip package. Pin count, pin pitch. Millimeter, bus clock and transfers. Not STIP 1970S. Intel 8086. Intel 8088. DIP 402.545/10 Intel 80186. Intel 80286. Intel 80386. PLCC 68 to 1321.276 14 SPGA 168. Intel 80486 PGA 1682.5416 15 times referred to socket 0 or socket 486 socket 11989 Intel 80486 PGA 1692.5416 15 Kit 2 Intel 80486 PGA 2382.5416 15 Kit 31991 Intel 80486 PGA 2372.5416 50 MHz A. Socket 41993 Intel Pentium PGA 273 6100 Mzkit 51994 Intel Pentium AMD K5 Cyrix 6x86 IDT Winchip C6 IDT Winchip 2 PGA 320 5100 Mzkit 6 Intel 80486 PGA 235 Designed but not used socket 463 / Socket Next Gen 1994 Next Gen NX586 PGA 463 37.566 Mzkit 71994 Intel Pentium MMX AMD K6 PGA 321 5066 Ms. It is possible to use socket 7 processors in a socket 5. An adapter is required, or if one is careful, a socket 7 can be pulled off its pins and put onto a socket 5 board, allowing the use of socket 7 processors. Socket 81995 Intel Pentium Pro PGA 387 6066 Slot 11997 Intel Pentium II Intel Pentium Thrive Slot 242 66133 Celeron Covington Mendocino Pentium 2 Plymouth Deschutes Pentium 3 Katmai all versions Pentium 3 Coppermine Super Socket 71998 AMD K6-2 AMD K6 III's MP6 Cyrix MIPGA 321 66100 Ms backward compatible with socket 5 and socket 7 processors. Slot 21998 Intel Pentium 2 Xeon Intel Pentium 3 Xeon Server Slot 330 133 Mzkit 6151999 Intel Mobile Pentium II Intel Mobile Celeron Notebook GA 615 66 Slot 1999 AMD Athlon Desktop Slot 242 100 Mzkit 3701999 Intel Pentium II Intel Celeron VIA Cyrix 3 via C3 Desktop PGA 3701.27 1 66133 Mzkit / Socket 4622000 AMD Athlon AMD Duran AMD Athlon Expand Athlon XPM AMD Athlon MP AMD Sempron Desktop GA 462 100 200 MHz 400 mount / S B Socket 4232000 Intel Pentium 4 Desktop PGA 4231 2 100 MHz 400 mount / S Willamette core only. Can accept some of socket 478 CPU with an adapter socket 4952000 Intel Celeron Intel Pentium 3 Notebook GA 4951.27 3 66133 MHz Socket 6032001 Intel Xeon Server GA 6031.27 4 133 MHz 400 533 mount / S Socket 478 / Socket N2001 Intel Pentium 4 Intel Celeron Intel Pentium 4e Intel Pentium 4 Desktop GA 4781.27 5 100 200 MHz 400 800 mount /s socket 5632002 AMD Athlon XP notebook GA 56333 Socket 6042002 Intel Xeon server GA 6041.27 4 100 266 MHz 400 1066 mount /s socket 7542003 AMD Athlon 64 AMD Sempron AMD Tyrion 64 desktop PGA 7541.27 6 200 800 Socket 9402003 AMD Optron AMD Athlon 64 FX desktop server PGA 9401.27 7 200 1000 Socket 4792003 Intel Pentium M Intel Celeron notebook GA 4798 100 133 MHz 400 533 mount /s socket 9392004 AMD Athlon 64 AMD Athlon 64 XMD Athlon 64 X2 AMD Optron desktop GA 9391.27 7 200 1000 support of Athlon 64 FXTO 1 support of Optron limited to 100 series only LGA 775 / socket T2004 Intel Pentium 4 Intel Pentium D Intel Celeron D Intel Pentium Xe Intel Core 2 Duo Intel Core 2 Quad Intel Xeon Desktop AGA 7751.09 x 1.17 9 1600 ms can accept LGA 771 CPU with slight modification and use OFAN adapter socket M2006 Intel Core Solo Intel Core Duo Intel Dual Core Xeon Intel Core 2 Duo Notebook GA 478 133 166 MHz 533 667 mount /s replaces socket 479 LGA 771 / socket J2006 Intel Xeon Server GA 7711.09 x 1.17 10 1600 ZLGA 775 / socket tab of sockets 12006 AMD Tyrion 64 X2 notebook PGA 6381.27 11 200 800 Zakitam 22006 AMD Athlon 64 AMD Athlon 64 X2 desktop PGA 9401.27 7 200 1000 replaces socket 754 and socket 939 socket F / socket L socket 1207 FX 2006 AMD Athlon 64 XM Doctrine socket L only support Athlon 64 FX desktop server LGA 12071.1 12 socket L 1000 EMS in single CPU mode 2000 EMS in dual CPU mode replaces socket 940 socket L was intended for enthusiasts who wanted server power in a desktop PC. It is just our branded socket F that doesn't need special IO, and may have only been used in the Asus L1N64 SLIWS motherboard. Socket AM2 plus 2007 AMD Athlon 64 AMD Athlon X2 AMD Phenom AMD Phenom desktop GA 9401.27 7 200 2600 inspirated power planes replaces socket AM2 AM2 plus PKG CPUs can work in socket AM2 AM2 PKG CPUs can work in socket AM2 plus socket P2007 Intel Core 2 notebook PGA 478 133,266 MHz 533,1066 mount/s replaces socket MLGA 1366 / socket B2008 Intel Core i7 900 series Intel Xeon 35XX 36XX, 55XX 56XX series desktop server LGA 1366 4.86.4 GT/s replaces socket J LGA 771 in the entry-level. Socket AM32009 AMD Phenom 2 AMD Athlon 2 Sempron Desktop 941 13 or 940 14